Good evening, everyone. This is your host, Malik Washington. How's everyone doing this fine day or evening, wherever you all reside? I hope you're all doing well in these turbulent times and any challenges or anything that you're going through. I pray for courage, bravery, understanding, revelation, and perhaps even change if that can come for any of you who are currently facing any of those particular situations that you happen to find yourself in these times. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to try to keep this short because there's not really too much to say about it. So it's going to be a relatively short episode. Might do a little short monologue before I dive into the topic because just to give my thoughts on it, just something I want to just throw out there for you all. But and it's been a little bit. I've been relatively busy. Some things have been happening, some changes, some good, some not so good. But this is life. It happens. And I can either roll over and die or I can keep it pushing and hoping for the best. So I'm not going to say I'm in a bad place. Definitely not. But I'm not in the best of places either. But I'm enough to where I can keep it moving, right? Regardless. But we're going to keep doing what we have to do. And that's just where it's at, right? So I guess to start the monologue off, I want to say that in the life that I'm living, sorry about that, in the life that I'm living now, my 30 years of living, I can appreciate that everyone has differences, right? Differences make the world. Differences make us who we all are. Differences kind of help us to better understand the world in different layers, right? The world is just not this monolithic human scale of homogeneity to where everyone is the same. We all think the same. We all act the same. We all have, similar moral compasses and things of that nature. It doesn't necessarily always work out that way. No matter where you go, there's always someone that thinks slightly different than you do, or me even vastly different than you do. Someone who may look akin to you, someone who may be look vastly different from you, someone who has different solutions than you do, some who have similar solutions than you do, some people who think similarly to you, and then you have some not so much. But nonetheless, these differences can either make or break a society. And depending on how many people within the society thinks that way, it could shift politics, religion, sociocultural matters, geopolitical matters through as time goes on, right? Depending on who we vote for, how we vote, how we think. And that's going to shape society in the coming times, right? Now, granted, though I do love differences and us all obviously thinking in vastly different ways, I don't think that all differences are healthy. I don't think that all differences will actually benefit most people. Probably might not be for the best. Uh, Perhaps for the worst, but definitely not for the greater good, right? I do like differences that do advocate for the greater good. Differences that don't advocate for the greater good, but for otherwise, well, that's for people and their personal agendas against humanity, I guess. I'm not so much against humanity, even though a lot of times I find myself not really liking people that much. I still don't feel the need to do any damage or harm to them, as some beliefs out here, some thought processes are relatively dangerous. Some are sick, some are absolutely batshit crazy. I might have a few batshit crazy sentiments myself, but that's neither here nor there. I don't push that on anybody. I certainly keep it to myself. But the point is that it's not going to benefit the majority, right? Those so-called differences people may have. Some people might be strange in the head. It may not be all there. So not all thoughts are good, right? But nonetheless, they exist. They coincide with the good thoughts or the more functional, the ones that keeps society running. And so with that being said, It's those thoughts that help to keep a nation functioning, not the ones that are more oddly specific or could potentially be dangerous, right? But nonetheless, I like people that are different. We don't all have to be the exact same to live a decent, comfortable, kind, competitive, decent life. You don't have to think like me. I don't necessarily have to think like you, but we can both think enough to create this system that can help both sides to coexist. Now, we are going to have our irreconcilable differences. So it doesn't, so regardless, there are going to be baseline beliefs that you or I have that we're not going to agree with, because that's just what we foundationally believe in. You cannot change or alter that. And that's like the bottom line to it, right? Is that, yeah, sure, there might be some things me and you may talk about and we could perhaps agree to it. But foundationally, if there's things that we both stand on, we're not willing to sell ourselves short for it, and this is what we're going to die on that hill on. That's just what it's going to be. Even though I may think that what you're dying on is crazy, you may believe that what I'm dying on is insane. But hey, it's part of being a human being. We all have to stand on something, if not anything whatsoever. So that being said, differences can make or break a person, but it takes time, effort, trial, and error for a human being to eventually figure out whether if it's this is to their benefit or if it's to their detriment. So you decide whatever works for you. I appreciate whatever your differences are. Even when I talk to some people here on YouTube or in my personal life, I appreciate it. Doesn't mean I always agree to it. A lot of times I'm listening to better understand why you believe what you believe, as opposed to try to persuade you to think otherwise or think how I think. The goal of this channel is to have that conversation with you all and your perspectives, no matter how crazy, destructive, chaotic, violent, and even dark it may sound, because I believe all knowledge should be met with some kernel of curiosity and some kernel of questioning. You know, seeing if you will meet your understanding to its logical conclusion. And that's the way I like to look at things, right? Because I have baseline beliefs that have perhaps some loopholes, some things that will say, okay, what if I question him this way? How will he respond to it? Will he continue down that path, or will he actually stick with his belief? And that's the way I do to anyone who has this spirit of, you could say, this sense of like having having this grounded faith in what you believe in. I don't mind you having it, and I love it. I love when someone is passionate about what they are very certain in what they believe. But I present certain scenarios to test or challenge that, because sometimes as human beings, if given a certain angle or looking at it in a different way, are you more rigid in your belief, or are you open to thinking differently if there is a solution that could be less difficult, less collateral, and more targeted, if that makes any sense? Because every decision has a cause and effect. Every form of wisdom has its pipeline that can lead to good, bad, ugly. And depending on the person, everyone chooses how they wish to walk their path. But my question is, whenever I am listening to someone, is, does this person really believe what they're saying? Or are they just saying this because this is something that either fulfills them, or is it something they heard from someone else and they feel like it's the best path for now until they hear from somebody different that may help them lead towards a different understanding of a situation, circumstance, or life itself? So overall, love the differences, but I question all differences, as I question my own beliefs in a lot of different things. I still have my foundation, but every foundation requires some degree of openness to being wrong. And you can always be wrong about some things, and that's okay. And so that's pretty much my little 2 cents on that. So that's my little monologue, if you will. But the main topic here is concerning Donald J. Trump. The episode is called My Progress Report on Donald J. Trump. And so, why am I talking about this ultimately? Well, he is the current president of the United States. This is his second time round of being president. It will certainly be his last, right? Assuming that he follows the Constitution. 2 terms for president. This is his second term. He goes 4 more years, which I think we're about a year and maybe about 4 or 5 months in now with Donald Trump. So a lot has transpired since he was inaugurated or officiated as president of the United States. There's a lot about what Trump has been doing I question, and I'm not certain what the next 3 years are going to look like. I have no shame in saying that I am one of those people that certainly voted for Donald Trump. Do I regret voting for him currently now? Absolutely not, because the other side wasn't necessarily the best. They didn't present the best case. And as you all know, I am an independent, but I tend to lean right of center, if that makes any sense, right? So I'm more moderate and in the middle in my approach to things. I can lean left or right depending on the conversation and the topic, as I've iterated multiple times before, right? And Donald Trump presented to me as a guy who's all about solutions to a certain extent, because he is a businessman. That's kind of a part of his MO. He has to make executive decisions, even some decisions that people may not like. And that's okay. It's a part of being a leader. It's a part of being an executive in general. You have to make decisions for the company, or you have to make decisions for your business or other businesses that you may have shares in, where there might be things that said leaders or said employees may or may not like. But if it helps to run the business and keep it moving along, you're going to have to put on this cap or persona that says, I understand you all may not like the decision that I made, but this is what I must do for the betterment of my company and for my success. So, is there a shred of selfishness there? Absolutely. Maybe a tinge of narcissism? Yeah, sure. Everybody has some degree of narcissism, right? Just like everybody might have a tendency to do a little bit of anything, have a tendency to be upset, have a tendency to be happy, sad, you name it. Narcissism is kind of like that. Trump, I think, has a lot more of it, but I also believe that's what makes him as successful as he is because he carries that selfishness forth. He presents it, and he doesn't give a fuck how anyone feels about it, right? I acknowledge that even when I was voting for him. But I wasn't voting for him based off of his narcissism. I was voting for him based off of his ability to make decisions, even if people don't necessarily like it. Because being a man, let alone being a human being, we all make decisions that can be relatively tough. Going back to in retrospect, to the conversation, to the monologue about how a lot of times people have differences. Sometimes those differences can be met with a challenge. Obviously, right wingers and left wingers think differently, and this is the polarity we deal with here in America. I'm sure in other countries they deal with the same thing, but this is our particular issue because our polarity can either make or break our society. Donald Trump, who once was a Democrat, transitioned to being a Republican because it was more effective. His party was more so starting to lean more left, and as a result, he began to go more towards the Republican side because they fit more of what he was looking for as far as his agendas were concerned. Does he have some Democrat tendencies? Obviously. His past political background was the Democratic Party, right? So there are some tendencies there. However, in my eyes, what made him effective was, in contrast to Kamala Harris, he actually was attempting to tackle issues, perhaps perhaps what Americans have been looking for all this time. The mainstream Republican and Democrat parties were not trying to tackle. There was always these gridlocks when it came to decisions. Some political leaders are playing all these different games, being lobbied, all these different things. That seems to be the case for Trump now when it comes to this Iran situation too. But neither here nor there. The point being is lobbying happens and the politicians start to change their mind. They're not really listening to what the American people are asking them to do. And so it just seems like all of these political antics are being played. Politicians are getting richer. The American people are getting poorer. The taxes we're paying into the system isn't necessarily working in our favor because it seems like money is being reallocated to things we never knew about. And thankfully to Doge, looking into how our money was being spent, we then finally got to see the truth. So to me, I voted according to logic that the economy wasn't doing so well. We were losing jobs. We were in war with Ukraine. So I kind of wanted that to end because I'm like, I really don't want the United States to get involved in the antics of other countries, but I understand we have allies as well. But in the same breath, we were giving billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine, but we weren't helping our country and our countrymen. And I believe personally in putting our people first. And that doesn't matter what skin color you are, because we're all in this melting pot. We pay into the system. Our society is declining morally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and academically. And our money should be well placed into things that helps us to improve. We're not going to be immaculate, but we can certainly fortify some of these issues that we're having. And it just wasn't happening under the Biden administration, in my humble opinion. I haven't seen it. Even here in the city of Chicago, on a state level or a local level, it has not been happening. But our mayor has the gall to help a bunch of illegals who don't even belong here. But he's not willing to put cents to a dollar to any of the current issues we're facing in our society, in our current local society. But the Chicagoans voted for this man. But where's the results? The same thing with Biden. Where was the results? But instead, we were getting all these different issues related to LGBTQ rights and transgenderism and the right wing being canceled because any and every little thing that's said to the other side was considered an offense. And laws were being created that if you misgendered people, you get fined or you get a lawsuit is filed against you, and all these different things. Almost like we were living in this very sensitive society where you're walking on eggshells and you could damn near you can't say anything to anybody, and you have to be extremely careful with how you word things. Otherwise, that's like basically career suicide. So you have all these different things, and I felt Donald Trump could come in and handle all of that. Much of it he did. I take for a perfect example immigration. I was for him getting rid of all of these illegals, especially the ones that were coming here and swarming Chicago. I had a problem with that because it's hard enough for particularly black Americans to be able to receive any degree of, let's say, assistance. We get cents to a dollar, crumbs, if you will, that comes from our tax paying dollars. But then our tax paying dollars is being reallocated to illegals who don't belong here, who did not pay a dime or taxes into our system, even though immigrants do generally pay taxes, but not the kind of taxes that we pay. They pay partial taxes, but not every single tax that's out here. And plus, they're paid underhandedly by these corporations. Not to mention, it's hard for the bottom line to get jobs if these people are taking these jobs for less. You can't compete against that. Any corporation, if they can pay you less, that helps them. That doesn't help us. So, time to get them out of here. And I have nothing personal against immigrants in general. Come over here the right way. Come over through the port of entry, just like any one other immigrant has. Fine. That's not my gripe. My gripe and my umbrage that I take with it is You let these people over here, you give them all kinds of welfare. The average American citizen can't even get that kind of welfare. And not that we should necessarily be seeking that if we don't require it. But let's say that we do as a safety net or as a fail safe, worst case scenario, we all go through something or hard times fall upon us. The fact remains is that we're in this situation where we're subjected to this system. We have to follow through, which we don't have a problem doing. But after everything is said and done, we're only getting crumbs. $50, 25, 75, maybe 100. But a illegal can get the maximum groceries, maximum cash assistance, maximum everything, maximum how like free housing, all of that. But you got homeless veterans out here and all of that. That's a problem to me. So Trump, I think, did an awesome job when it came to immigration and that he closed the borders. I was for that. The economy. I don't like what he's doing with it. To me, I don't think he's focused on the economy enough. Yes, he lowered inflation. Inflation is low right now. That's what was causing a lot of the grocery prices and everything to skyrocket, right? And we're still seeing prices that have been skyrocketed. The problem is, and this is what wasn't discussed, is that he couldn't get down the actual prices that we're seeing on everything from bread, poultry, produce, you name it, right? The issue was dealing with inflation, and inflation was what's causing our groceries and everything to accrue. And so that being said, it seems like when we're spending money and trying to save, we're not saving. We're spending more than we're saving. So that being said, we're kind of shit out of luck. And it's as if the middle class, who seems to be paying and towing everything and supporting everything along with the rich people, that seems to be now traversing towards being to the poor class. Because I know here in Chicago, if you look at how much it costs to live here comfortably, the average salary now for someone to be in the middle class is up to 80K or more. Used to be in Chicago, you could get off living comfortably at 50, 45, $50,000 a year. Now these things have changed after over a decade. That's a problem. So you got high grocery prices, oil prices, even though they were low, they're high due to the war. We're now also dealing with this job shortage situation. I'm sure some of you have heard me say this a couple of times, mentioning the job market, and I will continue to do that because I don't think that he's addressing that very well. They keep coming out with the jobs report. The jobs report is saying that unemployment is holding steady, but this is assuming people who who are currently unemployed that have just filed these claims recently, but not accounting for the ones who are off unemployment, no longer getting supported, but they're still unemployed because they can't find jobs. White collar jobs are going out, not solely because of AI, but because of a smorgasbord of reasons that businesses let people go. AI is just a scapegoat, but a lot of times it's to correct their mistakes from what they did during COVID, borrowing loans in order to get more people as an incentive to hire more people to come in for these job placements and all and things of that nature, right? Accounting for AI as well. On top of that, getting rid of entry level jobs because AI is now taking over those things, which kind of makes AI like this. What's the word I'm looking for? It's AI is like this unit that's taking in everything that humans used to do in separate levels to help as like starting points to get into the business. But now they can't get into the business because companies are more weary about hiring people who are beginners when they can just have AI take over those jobs that are repetitious and basically basic data entry. So you have that issue. And due to the fact that there is this lack of jobs, Even though they're saying that there's job creation in certain fields, not all industries, people are having a hard time. We see it, I see it all over TikTok, I see it on YouTube, I see it everywhere. These people are getting evicted out of their homes. These people are going into gig work, and that has been overwhelmed. People are trying to do contract work. That's hard to also get as well, but that might be the ideal thing to do right now because people need income. I noticed that a lot of Gen Zers, particularly who are college educated, that unemployment rate amongst them is even higher than the average unemployment rate that we're seeing nationally. But I see that some of them are transitioning into the trades. But not all of them can even get into the trades because the trades will get saturated. That's becoming an issue. And you can't just waltz into that with a science degree, a well, you might be able to get away with a mechanical engineering, but that's an oddly specific degree and a complex degree at that. And that may not necessarily have anything to do with maybe the technical ones like being a mechanic, a car mechanic, or something along those lines. But I'm just speaking in general. Our degrees as white collar workers isn't going to translate over into blue collar that easily. A lot of people have to go into vocational school, they have to do apprenticeships, and it costs more money. It's less than a college educated 4 year degree, but it's still costly nonetheless. So, that being said, some people right now probably can't afford it and they're burning through their savings as we speak, right? So, he's not doing good on that front or trying to create incentives that help to lessen the blow that a lot of white collar workers are facing. Now, don't get me wrong. This is something that America has dealt with before when we've had innovations such as the internet, the tractor, along with a few other inventions that came, and it caused a lot of blue collar workers to lose their jobs at one point. So they went through this phase before, but it's bound to happen again, probably within the next 5 to 7 years. That wouldn't surprise me. And it's only a matter of time, I believe, before people start protesting. Protesting because they're getting hungry, protesting because they have no shelter, protesting because resources are thinning and more people are going to the food banks and that's starting to be contested. So these are things that Trump needs to consider. But the country is hot right now. And then there's this issue with Iran. I don't agree with the fact that we went over there. I don't agree with us making a preemptive strike against them, especially if they did not necessarily attack us. We did it behind Israel. Trump is saying under his agency that he did this by his own volition. He was convinced by no one. But then why did you do it behind Israel after Israel decided to go over there and strike Iran? Oh, because according to Marco Rubio, we didn't want Iran thinking that no, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. They believed that Iran would have gotten upset and believed that we were behind the reason why Israel did it. So preemptively, we're thinking we don't want the enemy to strike first. Let's strike it while it's hot. And that's the mentality everyone has. As I said in my previous video, a war is a war. Even though we have a history with Iran, was this threat imminent? According to one of his official personnel who was working up under him, I forget his name. Someone can say it in the comment section what his name is. I think his name is Joe Kent. But he came out and said basically Iran wasn't an imminent threat. And some people, they debate against it, of course. But neither here nor there. The bottom line is he said no new wars. And even though he was against Iran for a long time, even going back as far as I think like 2012 or better, saying Iran should not have nuclear weapons, he did say, also promise he was not going to get us into any new foreign wars. And we seem to find ourselves in one a month into the situation that he said he would be able to end within a week's time or better. So there's that. But this video is not to go into wholly into that, at least not yet, until this whole thing resolves itself, hopefully. But I incorporate that into this progress report. So what grade do I give him? At best, I give him a D. At first, it was like a C plus, but now I give him a D. because he could improve and he needs to focus more on the United States. He's not doing well among independents. He damn sure wasn't doing as well with Democrats. Republicans are kind of getting away from him, chipping away from him little by little, but he's still holding strong amongst his baseline, people, MAGA and whatnot. And do I still regret right now voting for him? No, I made a decision. He's not done. His term isn't done yet. He's fucking up. He's saying a lot of shit he shouldn't be saying right now. But nonetheless, he's currently the president. I want to see him do better. I hope he can get us out of this war. I hope he can bring more jobs back, probably by even closing AI for the moment. But some are saying right now that's not possible to do that because it's already here. There's not much we can really do. It's out there now. And I'm not saying to completely get rid of AI. What I'm saying is stop these companies from preventing people from being able to work jobs to make a living. Because the least we should be able to do as Americans, even if we don't compete as well, we should be able to actually functionally live in a society where we can utilize our skills to get into these intermediate jobs and be able to make a living. People should not have their jobs being completely taken away from them and having to go into something completely dichotomous from what they've been doing for 15, 20, 25 years because you're on this agenda to take us back to the Gilded Age where everybody's manufacturing again. Manufacturing isn't for everyone. But nonetheless, this is where we find ourselves. Progress report for him, an absolute D, because the economy, he gets a B plus for. I'm sorry, not the economy. Immigration, I give him a B plus. The economy, I give him a D. He could do a hell of a lot better. We just had Doge cut out funding for welfare programs, DEI initiatives, all of that. But the Republicans are willing to pay billions and billions of dollars or accrue billions and billions of dollars to the national deficit in the name of assisting Israel with strikes against Iran. So it's okay to do that. But it's not okay for Democrats to pay for welfare, DEI, all these different things. And I would agree with getting rid of those, but be consistent. Either we're trying to cut spending or we're just going to hypocritically fund our agendas that we think works for the betterment of the country, but the country disagrees with it. So if the country disagrees with us going to this war, why are we still keeping this going? Oh, that's right. Because you can't stop war. You can't stop war automatically when you want to. It takes time. It takes strategy. But that's what happens. So I'll leave it right there. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Malik Washington. You're watching another episode of Breaking Mental Barriers. Episode, I believe, 17 or 18. But nonetheless, I thank you for watching if you got this far. Have a good day or good night wherever you reside. I thank you for listening if you got this far. Stay tuned until the next episode. Comment, like, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you soon, people. Thank you.